Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Job In's JobX Masterclass series, where we bring masters from different fields to share their insights with you. I am Kavita Joshi, associated with StartupJob.in as Public Relation Manager. I will be the moderator for today's meeting. Startup Job In is a dedicated job portal for startup and MSME. We are trying to automate the entire recruitment life cycle for the startup employers. Our company started in May 2019. The beta version of the website was launched on 1st May 2020 on International Labor Day. The full-fledged version was launched on 15th August. Masterclass series is a weekly learning platform to provide specific tips to recruiters, startup founders, and job seekers. JobX is about sharing the topics for the benefit for job seekers. Today, we bring to you one of the most burning topic, that is hiring strategies adopted in Big Four and law firms. It's been said that setting a goal is the first step in turning the invisible into visible. If you have a goal and work towards it, if you want to join some big companies, research about it, gain knowledge about it, and make the invisible visible. Today we have Mr. Anirban Das with us, who is going to talk about hiring strategies adopted in Big Four and law firms. He is going to help us in understanding the hiring strategies used by the Big Four, that is the PwC, KPMG, ENT, so that the job seekers can prepare themselves well and achieve their goals. Allow me to introduce Mr. Anirban Das. He is the Chief People Officer at Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, a leading full services law firm having a presence in multiple cities in India. Bestowed with 101 top HR minds in India by the World HRD Congress, top 100 HR under 40 by Jombay, and North India's HR Super Achievers by Z Business for his contribution in HR arena. He is a seasoned HR professional with 17 plus years experience, including 9 years with the various Big Four accounting and consulting firms like Ernst& Young, Deloitte, and Prince Waterhouse Coopers, where he worked at different mid and senior level HR strategic roles. He holds an MBA degree from Jadavpur University and a Bachelor of Engineering degree with a specialization in electronics and telecommunications from North Maharashtra University. He is an active speaker in various academic and industry HR forums and regular contributor to leading journals like Business World, Times Jobs, People Matters, etc. for authoring articles, dissecting case studies, etc. on HR related areas. Sir, we are delighted to have you here with us today. It's time to start the discussion about the most interesting topic, that is hiring strategies adopted in Big Four and law firms. This session is structured in two parts, 15 minutes for the speaker's talk, followed by 15 minutes for the audience to ask their questions. Let's hear from our honorable speaker today about the hiring strategies adopted in Big Four and law firms. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I hope I am clearly audible. Okay, great. Okay, so Kavita, thanks for the nice introduction, and I really feel honored in coming into this forum and talking about using my experiences, whatever I gained with almost more than a decade in working with big four consulting firms, as well as now working with a leading professional services firm. And the most important part, which I would how I would like to structure my conversation, is that what exactly is Big Four, what are the service lines which they have, Similarly, which are the big law firms and which kind of practice areas do they operate in, and to get into them, or what is the process of getting into them, and what are the process being followed when you through the various rounds of interview when you appear in a big four or a law firm. So first, I would like to start with Big Four. Big Four firms, basically four firms: PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, Ernst and Young, and KPMG. These are four are known as the Big Four accounting firms. When I come to law firm, I am myself a part of Lakshmi Govardan and Sridharan, which is one of the largest professional services firm. There are other law firms like Shardul Amarchand, Amarchand Mangaldas, Trilegal, Khaitan and Company, and so many. So when I come to Big Four, they operate into the main service lines in which they operate. First is assurance, which is basically nothing but more of statutory audit and financial accounting systems, where we used to take, or we still take, more of chartered accountants. That is the primary people who used to join that practice area are chartered accountants. Many of them start from the article trainees and then go up the ladder to become partners in the organization. Then we have consulting. So consulting is the advisory part, in which comprises again of which takes people with a background from MBA, engineers, normal graduates, as well as chartered accountants, CFAs and all. In consulting, there are a couple of lines of service in which majorly a Big Four operates. Is one is on emerging tech, the tech solutions on which are currently emerging into the market. Big data and analytics, it's a hot topic in terms of Python, Django, and all those, whatever comprises of the big data. The third is the cyber security. With this work from home kind of thing, I think this has become really very serious, and how people are managing security still working from home is something which everyone is looking into. So cyber security is one more area where they deal with. Fourth is the performance improvement, which is called PI. It encompasses innovation, strategy, and purpose through deep functional experience in technology, customer, finance, supply chain, and operations. So basically, how do you improve the performance of an organization is what is performance improvement is all about. Then we have risk consulting, which is basically internal audit, SOX compliance, internal standards, the auditing of the internal processes and controls. And then we have something very interesting called actuarial sciences. These all are a part of consulting. Actuarial sciences, as you know, it will basically regarding the implementation of regulatory changes such as say Solvency II, or finance and risk transformation, or restructuring transactions. So these are the major service lines which a consulting in the consulting practice area Big Four operates into. Then we have another interesting service line, which is tax, which comprises of corporate tax, transfer pricing, indirect tax, and human capital taxation. So this is purely on the tax side of the scheme, where they basically take chartered accountants as well as lawyers, and that's how the team comprises of. Then we have the fourth service line, which is known as transaction advisory services, which basically deals with corporate finance strategy, merger and acquisition, valuation, and business modeling. So again, we have a lot of CAs and MBAs joining this service line. So that is what I wanted to tell about Big Four, and this is where which are the broad categories in which Big Four operates, and these are the service lines within which you can apply and get through them. Next, coming to law firms. So what are the main service lines in which a law firm operate? First is corporate and merger and acquisition, corporate and M&A. Second is obviously tax, which you have. Then direct tax, you have indirect tax. Inside indirect tax, you will have GST separate, you have customs separate, you have international trade, anti-dumping. You have commercial dispute resolution and arbitration. You have intellectual property rights, so which is a very upcoming and kind of thing which has been for years, and there are so many people who are coming into this field of intellectual property rights. The people whom we take in this kind of fields are basically PhDs, scientists, engineers, lawyers. What does it comprises of? Say patent designing, patent prosecution, trademark, copyright, plant variety protection, biodiversity, and all. So this is what a law firm, majorly the major service lines within which a law firm operate. And as I said, I also told you about how a Big Four operates and what kind of service lines are they. Now, when it comes to the hiring into a Big Four or a law firm, that majorly happens through 3-4 channels. First is obviously the campus placement. So they go to CA institutes, that is ICI, MBA colleges, law schools, engineering colleges, normal graduates. So that is the campus placement. Second is the career website. They all have their internal career website where you can see which kind of jobs are getting published, and you will be able to apply to them through the link provided in the on the site. Third is through various job portals like say LinkedIn, Naukri, Monster, IIMJobs. Fourth is will be internal employee referrals, where internal people refer someone whom they know and whom they whom they feel can fit into the organization culture. So that's through the internal referral. Then fifth will be the placement agencies, where we have placement agencies like Eagles Hunt and everyone, where they chip in to help us with candidates with niche skills. Now, this is how the source through which you can get into a Big Four or a law firm, and these are basically the point through which they hire candidates from the market. Various interview rounds. If I next cover that, what are the various interview rounds which a Big Four or a law firm does? First is obviously the initial HR round, which will be basically more to do a basic hygiene check, assess your interest, why you are interested in this area of law. Also to check your communication skills and do you have a clear thought process. And then you will be going to if you qualify that round, then you go to the technical round. Big Fours or law firms are very strict and very particular about the technical. So to get into them, your technicals has to be great and you should be well prepared. And in that round, basically someone at a mid-level or a senior level person will be interviewing you on various technical aspects like say accounting processes, legal judgments, jurisprudence, and all those things. So there you will be obviously be grilled on your technicals, that what you know, and for the service line for which you are applying. Then the next comes the partner or the director round. So basically in most of the law firms and most of the Big Four, for at least for the mid and senior level, there is a partner or a senior partner round is always being done, which is basically to less of technical and more of the behavioral aspects, and whether you will be culturally fit into that firm, and whether they see you that you have the right thoughts in mind for why you are applying for that job. And then after finally when you even pass through that round, the last come the final HR round, where someone senior from the HR will get in touch with you, and that is more of to understand, to make you understand about obviously the profile and what have you understood about the profile, and also to discuss about your about the commercials and package, and then close the offer. So these are the various rounds of interview or the steps which are involved majorly in a Big Four firm or a law firm. In law firm, you may also have a case study, because they give you case studies to understand how is your hold on a particular subject of law, how much you know, because drafting is a very important skill in a law firm, which someone has to excel if they want to join a law firm, because that's where the difference lies. And for that, the case studies are being given, on which you have to study the case study, and then you have to give your analysis of the case. You have to draft the reply, show cause notice reply, and everything, to understand that what is your depth of the legal language. So that's how the various interview rounds, which basically goes in a law firm or a Big Four. The couple of things which I feel, and what I've seen from my personal experience having worked with these firms, and which you all should know, is which Big Four and the law firms primarily look into. First is the communication skill. You need to have a excellent verbal and non-verbal English speaking skills. That is a must, because you will be dealing with multinational clients, you will be dealing with top-notch CEOs, CFOs. So that is absolutely which they always look for, and that is something which is a non-negotiable kind of thing. The second thing, you should be very strong on your technical and your legal acumen. you should be clear that for the service line or for the practice area for which you are applying, you absolutely know the nuances of the trade, you know the latest judgments, you know what is coming out in the, what are the latest developments in the market. Your basic should be clear. So the technical knowledge and legal acumen is something is very important which you need to brush up, and you need to ensure that you are very much thorough with your technicals before coming or before applying for a law firm or a big four. The other adjoining skills which they will obviously look for is your computer skills, how much you are good with MS Word, PowerPoint, Office and Excel and everything. So that is something which will obviously be tested, and you should be computer savvy and you should be computer proficient rather than only just computer literate. You should be knowing much more about how to operate into the systems. You should be tech savvy because there is a lot of technological developments which are happening in big four or law firms, for which basically technologically you need to be advanced and you should be knowing all this, how to work in these tools. Something which is I would like to highlight, it's some of the mistakes which we generally do in our resume, and which can probably get, although you may have the right credentials, but sometimes you may not get the right attention of the recruiter because your resume may not have been maybe lacking of some of these basic skills. The first thing is that your cover letter and resume speaks a lot about you, and obviously you should be clear enough that what are you writing in that. It should not have any grammatical errors. That is the first thing which you should be aware of. You should not have any unformatted documents. It should not have any grammatical errors. You should not make any unsupported claims about yourself. You should know what all is mentioned in your resume, and you should be able to express that when you are being asked when you are asked to take through the CV. You should be exactly knowing what is mentioned in CV, and you should be knowing that what all work you have mentioned, you actually know them, and it's not that you have made some unsupported claims. Your resume and cover letter should be impactful, but not lengthy like a novel, because you have to understand the other parties' position as well. There are so many CVs which has to be screened. You obviously make it impactful, make it precise, make it concise. Don't make it lengthy. Don't missing out on important details and accomplishment, even if they are not related to your career. Sometimes all of these extracurricular activities or something which is outside the career will also help you in showing that how much universal skills you have when you are applying in a big four or a law firm. Don't write too much of personal information. Basic personal information is more than good enough. If you have any career gaps, don't try to hide it. Mention it upfront with the reason that why there are those career gaps. I think these are some of the common things which you ensure that your CV carries when it goes when you apply against a job posting in a big four or a law firm. You will have better chances of getting it converted. My personal tips, if you see, there are a couple of tips which I listed down, which I feel I should share, and which I have seen over a period of time, and which will obviously add value when you appear for an interview and when you go for an interview. The first is never fake your resume. That is the first and the foremost part. Don't try to make it look a very charismatic resume which probably you haven't done. Just do what you're exactly done. Please read the job description very carefully, what is being mentioned. Don't apply if you don't have at least 70% of those job skills, because then obviously you are just applying for the sake of applying, and it will not be serving the purpose. So ensure that at least your 70 to 80% of job skills which are mentioned, you are matching. 100% matching may not be possible in most of the cases, so I absolutely fine with that. Ensure that you have good internship experiences. Specifically while applying for a law firm, the internship experiences matters a lot, and if you have good internship experiences in the area of law for which you are applying, it will obviously add value. Also take these internships very seriously, because many of the law firms take majority of their fresh candidates or fresh lawyers through the internship feedback only. So ensure that when you go for internship, don't think that okay, this is just internship, why to be serious. No, it is absolutely not. The internship is like the first step for you, as a first stepping stone for you to get you on board into the system. So ensure that you are taking your internships very seriously. Be clear why most of the thing which we always miss out, or we always feel that the candidates lack, is they are not clear that why they want to apply for a particular job. What is the thought process behind that? You should know that why are you applying for a job, and you should also be able to reciprocate that what value will you bring to the table. I as a HR or as a partner, we will be obviously interested in what academic credentials you have, but we will be more interested in what value will you bring to the table if we bring you into the firm. That is something which is your USP, and you should obviously do your own analysis before coming, that what value do you bring to the firm. Do a complete research of the company, and specifically about the practice area for which you are applying, what kind of work we do, when the firm has started, because that obviously gives a better impression that you have done your homework before coming for the interview. Don't ask that okay, what is this company is dealing about. You should be knowing that before coming for the interview, that you are applying and what are the service lines which it has, or what kind of clients or what kind of matters do we handle. As I said, you should have clarity on what is the kind of value you will be adding to the firm. If you feel that sometimes the interview call comes and they say you have to appear for an interview the next day, or say 2 days after, and you feel you are not amply prepared, please don't hesitate to ask for some time for them, say another 1-2 days, so that you are completely prepared and then you appear for the interview. There is no point appearing for the interview without getting prepared, particularly when you are appearing for an interview in a Big Four or a law firm. You have to be prepared, so don't hesitate to ask for time. Many people feel that okay, if I ask for time, probably the interview might cancel. That may not be the case. If you have the right credentials, waiting for 1-2 days is not much of an issue, and everyone understands that point. One more important thing is that obviously, because when the recruiter tells you that you will be interviewed by which is the panel who will be interviewing you, you should be aware. You should look into their LinkedIn profile just for your information sake, and to see that okay, the panelists who will be interviewing, for what kind of background or what kind of work they have done, what are their accomplishments. It will give a lot of sense of value to you that you are going for an interview. And sometimes when during the discussion you tell the panelists, okay, I saw your LinkedIn profile and I saw that you have done, it obviously gives a very good taste to them as well. So I think these are some of the points which I wanted to mention when you appear or when you wish to apply in a Big Four or a law firm. So this is why my initial talk which I wanted to give on the basic tips and the basic points. Yes, over to you, Kavita.
Thank you so much, Anirban. That was very insightful. Open the stage for questions. Anyone have any question? They can ask their questions.
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yes, please. Who is this?
Sir, Rahul Sharma.
Okay, yes. Yes, Rahul.
Yes, sir, you talked about when you are applying for a job anywhere, you should be transparent. And if you have a gap of 5 to 6 months and you have worked in 2, 3, 4 companies in those 6 months, right? So how would you put your perspective before the new employer that I would be a right fit for you?
So if I understood your question, you want to say that if you have, first is, I think I will divide into 2 parts. First, you wanted to say that you have career gap in your if you have a gap of career in your profile, so probably you may not be working for some time. And the second, I think you highlighted that if you have hopped too many jobs in a short period of time.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. Yes. First, these are the 2 set of questions which you wanted to ask, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I will take one by one. So when you have a career gap in your career, maybe of whatsoever reason, you should be transparent about the reason, and before for the people, because I understand there is an audience who will be now applying or who will be going through this process. If there is a career gap, ensure that you are taking that risk of that gap for some legitimate purpose, unless it is because of some personal reasons which you are taking. But you have added some value to yourself even during that gap. You have done some certifications, you have upskilled yourself, you have read some judgments, you are aware of the latest topic. If you are not aware of all those things as well, and it's just a career gap, then someone who does not have a career gap and is more attuned to the practice area will obviously take a preference, because hiring is something which everyone wants the best of the candidate, who will be not only in terms of technical but also in terms of what value they bring to the table. So please ensure that if you have a career gap, it is because of legitimate reasons, and you should be transparent and articulate enough to explain those reasons to the recruiter or the panel member, that why have you taken those career gaps. You may be preparing for some exams, but along with preparing for that exam, is there something else also which kept you engaged, or which you got trained on? That will obviously add a lot of value. The second thing is regarding the job hopping. Obviously, if nobody wants to look at a CV where there is a lot of hopping of jobs within a very short duration of time. First, it give a clarity that probably the person is not sure that what he or she wants to do, and he may be taking a hasty decision to join an organization and then figuring out that it may not be the right organization. So this is a very obvious thing which will obviously come into someone's mind. Yes, unless, and you can't always say that for better career opportunities I have been moving, because because anytime you look for a job, you will obviously get some or the other better career opportunities. But sometimes you need to know that what those career opportunities exactly. If it's only for money you have been hoarding jobs, then probably the recruiter may not be much interested, because tomorrow you may get something better than what I am offering and you may again leave. Try to understand, an organization invests at least 6 months to 1 year on any particular, depending on their years of experience, before that person can be productive. And if after investing for 6 months or 1 year, I feel that that person is now moving out of the firm, then that's a big loss to me. So I would obviously be more cautious in ensuring that I am very conscious about what steps I am taking to ensure that such kind of things do not happen. So that is what my viewpoint is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Rahul, I hope that answers your query.
Yeah, I have now more clarity. Thank you.
Moving on, I have a question.
Yes, Kavita.
Thank you. Most of the MBAs want to join the Big Four. How they can plan out their entry in one of the Big Four, considering their strengths and weaknesses?
Look, in the Big Four, for a fresher, there is the first barrier is maximum fresher intake is being done through the campus placements. So the first thing is that you must be doing with some top tier institutes if you want to have a little bit more advantage over the people who are may not be from those top tiered institute. I do not say you can't join, you can obviously join, but the struggling time and the struggling path will be little longer as compared to if you are from a top tier institute, because only after we take people from campus placements, Big Four takes people from campus placements, then they look for offline candidates. So if the requirements are being fulfilled through the campus placement, then probably I may not look for offline applications. So the first thing is that if you are in such an institute which has a good relationships with the Big Four and their placement coordinators are in touch with them and they are able to do a placement process, then you should be, that should be the most logical way of entering into a Big Four for a fresh MBS. If you are not into that, then obviously it can be only against some jobs position which has been highlighted, or you go to their career website and see that what something which you feel is of your area of interest and you apply for that. So, and same for even for engineers also. The same thing goes for MBAs, engineers, and same thing goes for a law firm as compared to the law students as well. If you are able to go through campus, that is the best possible way in which you can get through. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Kavita.
Yes. Moving something similar to this, I have a query. that we have seen a lot of people, they change their career at some point and they switch to the law firms. Then how can they, make it up? Because sometimes it happens that, yeah, as you said, that there are engineers, there are other people from different backgrounds coming into this field. Sometimes it happens that they don't have those certificates, those courses, that particular kind of a study which is required, but they do have those skills. Can they still make big in this field?
So your question is for a non-lawyer coming into a law field. Is that what the question is?
Yes.
So for someone who may be a MBA or a engineer, they have worked for say 4 years, 5 years, and suddenly they want to pursue law. That's what you are. So the first of thing, there are ample evidences and ample examples of such people who were in a non-law field, and then because of their passion of doing law, they came into the legal field and they have excelled in the stream. That's absolutely fine. Only try to make sure for someone that when you want to come to a law field, you understand this field very clearly. Don't go by black coats and feeling that, okay, the lawyer, so don't go by the names and those things. Please try to understand that, is this something which is in your acumen? Do you have the right acumen to come into this field? That is the first thing, because the skill set required for an engineer or an MBA is very different than that of a lawyer. There are many people who are engineer come lawyer come MBAs, but those are very rare cases. Most of the cases, if after 4 or 5 years you feel that you want to do law and come into a law firm, just make your homework very clear that why do you want to come, and you should be knowing about all the nuances of coming into a law firm in terms of what you will be exposed to, in terms of the legal acumen, in terms of, and is that something which interests you? If you find that yes, these are interesting and this is something which you can excel, then I don't think there is no looking back. You can obviously get into a good law school, get your LLB done, and then shift. The only thing is that don't make this shift if you have more than say 5 or 6 years of experience in some other field. It becomes very difficult even for a law firm to understand that a person with having 6 years in some non-related field to come and start afresh. Often a recruiter will always have its own inhibitions in terms of when people with higher experience come for a startup jobs or for a fresher jobs. They feel that obviously they want to start up and that's why they want to come, but the team dynamics may not always support such kind of arrangement, and then hence if so the bet earlier you make the decision that okay, you want to shift your stream, better it is. Don't make it a very prolonged path that you have been doing something very non-related and then now after 10 years or 12 years you want to shift to a law firm. Then this probably the shift will not be as easy as you are thinking, and it may not be as fruitful as you would have liked it to be.
So basically, even if you are a if you don't belong to this field, if you are changing or switching, you do need to have a clear-cut idea that what you are going to do. Okay.
Absolutely, what you are going to do, and exactly what are the why do you want to do law? Why? Do you have those documents of a lawyer or not? As I said, the skill sets are very different. As an engineer, I can't say that he can be a good lawyer also. So it's vice versa.
Great. My another question is that what is so good about these consulting roles in Big Four that everyone making it as their dream job?
Look, I will be very frank. Coming into a Big Four, when you come, the service lines which I described comprises of almost each and every kind of qualified people which can come into the stream. So you take CA, you take MBA, you take engineers, you take PhD, you take lawyers. Any stream you define, and they will have position for you. That is the wide variety of platform which they give. Second is that you are able to experiment with so many things. Say they have financial transactions. You have consulting, you have statutory audit, you have internal audit, you have big data. Everything, each and everything, whatever happens in an industry, you will be able to find that the Big Four advises on most of those aspects. So your exposure increases, Later on, if you want to shift from one practice area to other practice area, it is much easier to shift within the big four. Say I am doing tax and I want to move to business consulting, or I am doing business consulting, I want to move to risk consulting. Being internally moving into the within the firm is much easier, and you also get a 360-degree view of what exactly these service offerings have to offer you. The second thing which people always get fascinated about the big four, about their heavy investment in learning and development. There are so many trainings and so many on soft skill, behavioral, as well as leadership skills, the training which is being imparted in the big four, which is something which is very mind-blowing. So there is a significant investment which they do on the learning and development of a person in terms of certifications and everything, which everyone wants to have that flavor. So I think that is where why people feel that going into a big four will obviously add value to their CV, because these are the big four accounting and consulting firms, and obviously they have created their mark in the market.
Thank you so much. Now we'll be moving to the last question. In your current employer, that is your Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, what kind of lawyers roles are available generally, and how one can apply?
Okay, so I understand because I think the voice was cracking in between. So if I could understand your question, it was that in my current employer, Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan, what kind of skill set do we look in a lawyer? Is that the question, right?
Right.
So look, we are a full service law firm, which we started initially with tax, but then we moved to doing everything under the law, right? From corporate and M&A, commercial dispute, arbitration, anti-dumping, food and safety law, technology law, IPR, and that's how. So when we look for lawyers, when for a fresh lawyer to apply, he should know the law. That is the most important thing. We don't expect them to know tax in their 5 years law course or a 3 years law course. Obviously, once they come, they have to be groomed into that, because these are very niche subjects which are not being covered in details in most of the law schools. But the thing is that the concept of law, in terms of law, is about interpretation. That should be very clear. So we take people who have a acumen towards M&A or JVs, or do we take people who have acumen towards, say, customs law or indirect tax or GST, or we have it towards direct tax, or maybe say arbitration, international arbitration, commercial dispute resolution, maybe towards IPR. So you can have lawyers both for advisory as well as litigation roles. So a person, based on their own preference, they can apply for any of these roles, and each of these roles is available under different buckets, which they can go into the firm's website and see that, okay, what are the current openings which are there. And we take a lot of engineers, PhD scientists in the IPR also, which basically most of the engineers feel that for them it is only going to, say, IT industry or say automobile or manufacturing. But in the intellectual property rights, there is a lot of patent design and patent prosecution kind of work which happens, which there is a lot of engineers. So even for engineers also, that's also one of the fields which they can always pursue as their dream.
I have just this one last question. I just currently received it. Now, what are the negatives in the Big Four, which people should be aware of in advance? Like, I have personally heard about, crazy working hours. So what are those negative aspects which people should be aware of?
Look, so I would not like to say it negative. I think even Google, being the number one employer, also has a lot of negatives. So I would not put it as a negatives, but yeah, some of the call or some of the compromises or sacrifices which you have to do when you want to work with a top tier firm. First is, obviously there are crazy working hours, but it's not applicable throughout the year and not with every practice area. If you are doing on some M&A deal, obviously for those few weeks, few months, it will be completely crazy. But then when you don't have any deals, you are quite relaxed. People always tend to highlight those parts of their work when they have been super busy. Nobody wants to highlight the part when there has been not much of a work and they have been little relaxed. So I don't say it is crazy working hours. One thing which obviously a Big Four teaches you that how to be street smart and how to convince your clients, because something which if you have to give a solution to the client, you can't go and ask a client about his business. You should be knowing better than him or her about their business, and that's what is for that it is required that you have an in-depth knowledge of what the business processes are. You do your own homework, you study a lot. So obviously the effort which you have to grow in a Big Four obviously comes with a lot of effort which you have to put into that. And if you feel that you are not hardworking or you are not smart enough or you don't want to compromises, you want your all the personal things to happen along with the official things and don't want to compromise on them, then probably it may not be right to say that it's a negative side of the Big Four. It will be more on that what you want to give up to achieve something. I think I take it in that way. So that is the most important, even with the law firms. If you take a life of a lawyer, then it's 24/7 you are on the job. You don't have weekends, you don't have Saturday, Sundays. You can have your own personal time, but you know the client call can come anytime. If you're serving clients, then you don't have a fixed timing to when you can't say, okay, the client should not call me. So you should be like emergency kind of services. You should be regular on the job. So that is the path which you choose to opt for. And once you choose the path after knowing all the nuances, then obviously it is something which you either go ahead with it, or you feel okay, let's me move to a little bit more relaxed job and do 9 to 5 kind of job.
So it's basically one cannot have anything and everything. For having something, you have to lose on something.
Yeah. You cannot say that I want to have all the best pies of a cake, and so you need to see that where are your priorities and accordingly decide.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anirban. It was a really very informative session. It was really delightful. We are all delightful to have you over here and looking forward to have you soon again with another session. Thank you so much.
I will be more than happy. And again, thanks to Startup Jobs. I hope people would have benefited out of these simple tips. And in case somebody wants to reach out to me, you can always direct them.
Thank you so much. That was really generous of you.